Hey y'all. I'm gonna wait until right at noon to start. That way I won't miss anybody. Alrighty. Hey everybody. I am so excited to be here. I want to say thank you to the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity for allowing me to be here today. I'm so excited to be participating in the Free Black Women Library reading challenge. So I chose to read Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. You may have heard of Roxane Gay. She's also the author of Bad Feminist. But this time I'm reading a collection of short fiction by Roxane Gay. So one of my favorite collections. I'm more of a poet, but I do love reading fiction. And what I really love about this book is her ability to really craft these women characters who are, I think, complex in their own way. So she has maybe about 15 short stories in this collection. And I'll just read what people have had to say about Difficult Women. So Difficult Women tells of hard-scrabbled lives, passionate loves, quirky and vexed human connection. The women in these stories live lives of privilege, of poverty, are in marriages both loving and haunted by past crimes or emotional blackmail. So there's a woman who's married to a twin, which I'm going to read in just a little bit. And she pretends not to realize when her husband and his brother impersonate each other. A stripper putting herself through college fends off with the advances of an overzealous customer. There's a story about a Black engineer who moves to Upper Michigan for a job. And just faces the curiosity of her colleagues and difficulty of leaving her past behind. So I chose, I'm excited here to read it too. So I chose 3 stories. Hopefully we make it through the 3. I chose the shortest stories in the collection. That way you all can have something more to go back and read. So I'm going to start with The Mark of Cain. And this is a story about the woman who pretends not to notice that her husband, who's a twin, is impersonating his brother. My husband is not a kind man, and with him, I am not a good person. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and he, Caleb, is kneeling over me, his fingers tracing my neck. I place my hands over his, the rough skin, the swollen knuckles, I squeeze. I wear heavy eyeliner and dark lipstick because my husband once said that he always wants me to look the way that I did the night we met in a bar, drunk and numb, looking for trouble because it found us. He can't stand to see me any other way, he said. He wasn't being nostalgic. I worry about the day when he leaves me torn apart on our bed, waiting for him to put me back together again. My husband has an identical twin, Jacob. Sometimes they switch places for days at a time. They think that I don't know. I am the kind of woman who doesn't mind indulging the deception. My husbands have a father who is neither a good father nor a kind man. When he died, shot in the head by a woman he had beaten one time too many, Jacob and Caleb, then 15, immediately forgave their father for his trespasses, the drinking, the meaty fists against their young bodies, the way he rid them of their mother. With each passing year, the brothers rewrote their past until they had beatified their father's memory. They each have a tattoo of their father's likeness on their back. The ink, Caleb told me on our first date, was mixed with their father's ashes so he will always be with him. It is nearly impossible to tell Caleb and Jacob apart. They have the same physique, the same haircut, the same mannerisms. Neither of them snores. They are both left-handed. They have dark hair, blue eyes, long, sharp faces, high cheekbones. My husbands work together at the architecture firm they started. So whether it is Caleb or Jacob who comes home, they have the same story to tell me about their day. I married Caleb, but I prefer Jacob's company. When Jacob and I make love, there is a sorrowful kind of kindness to his touch. I never worry about being left asunder. Jacob has a girlfriend, Cassie, who is really Caleb's girlfriend. She is unaware of the distinction. The four of us are at dinner. Jacob pretending to be Caleb and I are holding hands. Caleb pretending to be Jacob and Cassie are holding hands. There is a light in his eyes that isn't there when he looks at me. My husbands are finishing each other's sentences, regaling Cassie and me with stories about a particularly difficult client. Jacob orders another bottle of wine and we continue to drink and talk and practice being normal. His arm is heavy across my shoulders, and every once in a while he leans in and brushes his wet lips against a spot on my neck that makes my back arch sharply. Then he smiles at his brother, and his brother smiles back. This is when they are at their best. When they are together, sharing the moment, there is a safety for them in the number 2. Cassie is a graduate student in museum studies. Caleb told me this in bed after she and Jacob first started dating. He told me about how Cassie plans to curate modern art exhibits, how she has a unique aesthetic, how he thinks she may be the one for Jacob. But really what he's telling me is that she's the one for him. I lay next to Caleb, let him talk, trace his father's image with my fingernails. I told him I was happy for Jacob, but I was really happy for him. When it's time to settle the check, Cassie and I go to the bathroom and we eye each other in the mirror as we freshen up our lipstick. It must be hard being married to a twin, she says. I start to think that she may be smarter than I thought. I say, it's like being married to 2 men. Jacob takes me home while Caleb takes Cassie to Jacob's house, 5 houses down from ours. In the middle of the night, they will switch places and I will know because Caleb will smell like another woman. Cassie won't notice because she's the kind of woman who doesn't pay attention to details or who chooses not to pay attention to details. On the drive home, I trace Jacob's knuckles and the tiny scars on his fingers, all from the architecture school, making miniature models of grand ideas with sharp knives. I tell him how I wish every night could be like this. He nods and says, let's go for a drive. I lean back on my seat, kick off my heels. Jacob takes me to the site of a project he's working on, and we take the construction elevator to the top floor. His arms wrap tightly around me as the hoist slowly creaks upward. There's no ceiling yet on the top floor. So when we get out of the elevator, it is disorienting, seeing the city sprawling around us and nothing keeping us from falling into it. I hold on to Jacob to steady myself, and then I laugh and pull him into a slow waltz, staring up into the night sky. When we stop, the world keeps spinning. So we drop to the concrete floor and sit with our knees pulled against our chest. What I want to say is that I know who he is and that I would choose him. I would always forever choose him. But I also know his first love is his brother, so I say nothing. I pull my shirt over my head and slide out of my skirt, and I lie back on the cold floor, gritty with dirt and sawdust. I reach for Jacob and sigh when he lies on top of me. We kiss softly, and he closes his eyes, blowing air along my neck, across my shoulders. Then I'm tearing off his shirt, pulling him against me, opening myself to him the way he wants me to. I tell him the only true thing I can say. I say, I love you. When Caleb drinks too much, where too much is anything more than one drink, he forgets the new history he and his brother have cobbled from the memories of their father. After he and Jacob have switched places, Caleb climbs into bed reeking of wine and cigarette smoke. He barks at me to wake up. I pull the sheets over my head because I am thinking about Jacob and all the freedom of tall buildings and falling into stars while the husband I love most is moving over and in me. Caleb pulls the sheets away, turns on the lights. I sit up shivering alone with the husband I do not love most. He starts telling me a story about himself and his brother sitting in the back seat of their father's Cadillac while the old man got a blowjob from a woman who was not their mother, and how their father had the woman give his sons blowjobs as well. As he tells me this story, his voice grows coarser. His features become less recognizable. Caleb grabs me by the waist, straddles me, and slaps my face. Don't ever do something like that, he says. Don't ever be a fucking whore. Then he's flipping me onto my stomach. He's unkind, hand planted against my skull, holding me to the bed, treating me like the whore he doesn't want me to be. I think about Caleb's cock slick with Jacob's seed. I think about how much I hate and therefore love the husband I'm with because I pity him and maybe I pity myself. I come immoderately. Caleb falls asleep lying on top of me. His body is heavy and damp, his smell unfamiliar. In the morning, Caleb and I avoid making eye contact. He showers, pretends he's going to work, goes to his brother's house, sends Jacob back to me. I am at my dressing table trying to mask the angry, purpling bruise spreading across my face. Jacob stands in the doorway and smiles so kindly that I become nauseated. "What are you doing?" he asks. Then he notices the arc of brown blood vessels beneath my eye. His hands clench into tight fists as he approaches me. When he places soft kisses along the edges of the hurt, my face starts to ache more deeply than it ever did beneath Caleb's fist. "I'm so sorry," Jacob says, shouldering the burden of his brother's sins. When I miss my period twice in a row, it is Jacob who finds me in the bathroom, sitting on the edge of the tub, wrapped in a bath towel, holding the pregnancy test in one hand. He falls to his knees, folds his hands over my thighs. He smiles, pulls my towel open, leaving me naked, and rests his face against my breast. I run my fingers through his hair, gently massaging his scalp. I imagine the two of us packing a small suitcase, buying a cheap car, driving west on I-80 until we reach something better. I say, "Do you think your brother will be happy?" He says, "I don't give a damn what my brother thinks." For a while, I allow myself to believe him. I am 6 months pregnant when Caleb goes to a doctor's appointment with me. He is moody, almost indifferent. They're there only because Jacob had a meeting he had to attend. These days, I mostly see Caleb at night when he steals back to his own home. When he is angry and needs something I can only give. He sits in the chair with the hard plastic arms next to the exam table, arms crossed tightly against his chest. As the doctor glides the sonogram wand against the lower round of my belly, she turns a knob on the machine. "Do you hear that?" she asks. The room is silent, but for the identical flutters of 2 heartbeats. Oh, I really love that story. All right. So I'm going to read a couple of pieces from the title story, Difficult Women. She's broken it up into these blocks where she talks about loose women, crazy women, mothers. So I'll try to read parts and pieces from each of these sections. Difficult women. So parts on loose women. What a loose woman looks up to. Never her mother. She is trying to kill her mother, or at least those parts of her mother lurking beneath her skin. When she spreads her legs, she hopes the distance between her and her mother will gape ever wider. She does this because she remembers too much. She has seen too much. Her mother, pale and frail, cowed by the meat of her father, his fleshy body, his fleshy demands. What a loose woman sees in the mirror. Nothing. She doesn't look. She doesn't need to. She knows exactly who she is. Let's read Crazy Women. Why a crazy woman is misunderstood. It started with a phone call after the 3rd grade where she followed him home and they had sex. Nothing memorable, but overall adequate. They had breakfast at the diner next door. He ate eggs, scrambled soft. She had pancakes, doused in syrup and butter. "I can't believe you're a woman who eats," he said. "You're a goddamn dream." She smiled at him, the scent of maple heavy in her nose. When they said goodbye, they kissed long and hard, bruising their lips together. It was hours later in her own apartment when she remembered she left her briefcase on his couch. She called and he didn't answer, and there were important papers and iPad. She couldn't just let it go. She kept calling and he kept not answering. He called his best friend and said, "This crazy bitch is blowing up my phone." She went to his apartment, and when he answered the door, he said, "I've got mad skills." She rolled her eyes and said, "It wasn't that good," and pointed to her briefcase, exactly where she left it. His face reddened as she swept past him, grabbed her briefcase, and walked out, head held high. All right, so I have 2 more stories I think I can squeeze in here. Again, I'm only reading the shorter ones. The longer ones are really good. There's a story in here about a woman who is addicted to, I wouldn't say addicted to abuse. I think that it's up to the reader to determine her connection or her need for this abusive relationship. So I won't read that one, but that's a story that you all can revisit when you check it out. This story is called Open Marriage, and there's a lot of stories about marriage. I think especially when we're talking about women and desire, marriage is a topic that always comes up. So I always enjoy reading how Roxane Gay writes about women and marriage. So this one's called Open Marriage. We're having a heated debate about whether or not yogurt can expire when my husband suggests we stay together but see other people. He says open marriage intrigues him, that he couldn't be happier, but that he read this article online. I tell him yogurt can expire because it's filled with bacteria. I do not know if this is true, but I have seen commercials about yogurt that mention things like bacteria and the word probiotic, so I feel I have a sufficient command on the topic. I give him a look. I say he's welcome to try to find other women to sleep with, but that I'm fine, and his face falls because he thinks I'm playing a trick on him. I'm not. He has no game, none at all. If I had taken matters in hand, we would still be sitting on his couch in his bachelor apartment, his arms snaking around my shoulders after every yawn. I'm not worried. He's the kind of man who gets ideas, but is largely unable to follow through on those ideas. He shoves his hand into his jeans. This is something he does often, wearing right through the pockets of most of his pants. He leans against the kitchen counter. He says he wants cultivating an open marriage to be something we do together. I politely decline once more. I say I'm not inclined to open my half of the marriage, which only confuses him further because I'm quick-tempered and what he calls feisty, which only means I talk back to him and give him row ahead once in a while. And I'm the first woman who has ever done that in his limited experience. So it is still something of novelty, still something that requires terminology. I take a bite of the yogurt that started our scientific debate. It expired more than 2 months ago, but appears edible. When I dip my spoon into the plastic container, the yogurt gives way easily. It tastes sour. My husband's face is red and sweat beads on his upper lip. He asked if I would seriously be fine with him having no strings attached sex with another woman. And I say, yes, baby, of course. He tells me I'm amazing in bed, that it's not about being unsatisfied. And I say, yes, baby, of course. I rock his world on the regular and we both know it. He can barely string 3 words together after we make love. He just lies there trying to catch his breath, muttering, God damn, over and over. I say, good luck and be safe. Don't you break my heart. Baby, don't you break my heart. His eyes widen. I eat the entire container of yogurt, even going so far as to scrape the sides of the container until it is clean. I vocalize my appreciation for the expired yogurt and do a lot of elaborate spoon licking. I hold my husband's gaze the entire time. He was a virgin when we married. He looks away first. So I will read one last story here. It's a couple pages long, so. This one's called Bone Density. Winter is more of a state of being than a season in this place. It takes hold for 6 or 7 dark, cruel months. The cold becomes familiar. There's a silence when it snows. Tonight we sit together, but alone with our work. We can see outside to the street where now and again a car creeps through the inches of the white stuff, its sound muffled by a fresh blanket of powder. The fire is waning, but we are too lazy, not intrepid enough to brave the elements and gather more wood from the shed in the back. We sit, not speaking to each other, feeling the quiet around us. Every hour or so, I slide my feet into wool slippers, pull my sweater around me, and smoke a cigarette by the back patio door, open only an inch or two. Snow has been falling for several hours, and the absence of sound as fresh flakes fall to the ground is seductive. I feel slight pangs of guilt as I ash my cigarette, the dark flakes damaging the winter portrait, and I can hear his heavy sighs. He disapproves. He worries because he read about the hazards of smoking and is particularly concerned that smoking decreases bone density. He likes me the way that I am, doesn't want to see me become less of a woman, he says. Our relationship is like this. David travels 3 or 4 days out of every week of every month of every year. He's a professor of mechanical and biomedical engineering at the local university. He is somewhat renowned in his field. This is what I'm told by his adoring colleagues and students at boring cocktail parties where I play the part of a devoted wife. They always marvel at what it must be like to be married to the great Dr. David Foster III. They imagine, I think, that our nights are filled with romantic whisperings about fluid dynamics and heat transfer of the power of biomechanical joints. They forget that I am a writer and maintain only a curiosity, understanding, and of interest in David's work, just enough to assure him that my love is true. In exchange, he maintains the same level of understanding about my writing and carefully pores over any story I place before him. He is deliberate in how he reads my work. He leans forward, slides his glasses up his nose, and clears his throat as if that might somehow help him clear his mind and gain greater insight into my words. Our relationship is like this, a terrible cliche. He is that professor who has torrid but discreet affairs with research assistants and students and strangers he meets in hotel bars. He knows I know. I know he knows I know. It's an interesting equation. But I pretend that we're both faithful and true. The lie suits us, and I refuse to play the part of the dissatisfied, jealous wife. I'm not dissatisfied. I know who I married. And I have secrets of my own. There's a poet, Bennett, who lives in a cabin on the other side of town. He has no telephone, lives nearly off the grid. He is completely different from David, dark, unhappy, and brooding. He is enamored with the idea of himself as a tortured poet in search of his own Walden Pond. Bennett's self-involvement is one of his most attractive qualities. Bennett is not romantic, and we don't delude ourselves about the state of our affair. He is, however, intense and always leaves me sore in uncomfortable places. When David is out of town, and only when David is out of town, I sneak away to Bennett's place. The cabin is small, spare, but clean. It is a home. He heats it with the antique wood burning stove. He doesn't want any distractions when he's writing. He tells me he doesn't bother with most of the modern conveniences, save for a stereo to play music. His focus can be so singular, it frightens me. When he gets an idea in his head, nothing else matters. I don't matter. That turns me on too. Sometimes I watch him hunched over a small wooden desk, writing furiously with a lead pencil, and I know he's forgotten that I am on his bed, naked, the flat sheet bunched under my armpits. There's little ceremony between us. Bennett takes me into his arms or shoves me against the wall, knocking a picture loose the instant I open his door and call his name. He's like a teenager, groping at me awkwardly, pulling my clothes off, sliding his fingers between my thighs. "You're wet," he'll grunt, as if he's surprised each time that he continues to excite me. We fuck on his narrow twin bed. The coarse sheets make my skin raw. I grip the headboard with one hand and hold the wall with the other, my eyes closed. Bennett buries his head in my shoulder. Eye contact bothers him. He never wants to reveal too much of himself. I love his body, enjoy marking him with my fingernails, leaving the skin of his back angry and broken. His arms are strong, deeply tanned, even in the dead of winter, and tightly woven with sinewy muscles from years of chopping wood and climbing rocks. His thighs are thick from snowshoeing and hiking. He has the look of a man who uses his body more than he uses his mind. It is a contradiction. Looks are deceiving. With my legs wrapped around Bennett's waist, my body filled, my lover is longer than my husband. I think of David, who was almost delicate in comparison. My husband is soft, where Bennett is rough, handsome, where Bennett is not. After he comes in a loud, ugly display that always scares me the way that I like, my lover and I lie next to each other smoking. We use a saucer as an ashtray, leave it balancing precariously between us. Bennett is not remotely concerned with the density of my bones. He never asks me why I don't come. That I return time and time again seems to be enough for him as it is for me. I like the gnawing dissatisfaction I carry home. I will rest my head on Bennett's chest and listen to him talk about his poetry. Sometimes he reads to me or we listen to old bluegrass records. I tell him what's going on in the world beyond the walls of his cabin. I allow myself to drown in the way he smells, natural and sweaty, in his contradictions. When he falls asleep, I tuck a quilt around him, wrap myself in the unnecessary layers to brave the outdoors, and I leave. He never asks when I'll be back. He knows he will see me again, or he doesn't care, which almost turns me on. Tonight, David is home and Bennett is wherever he is. A last cigarette, I return to the family room and smile at David, his face shadowed by the dim glow of his laptop monitor. I snap the computer shut and sit on his lap, tracing his ear with my finger. It's time for bed, I say. He kisses the left corner of my mouth and slides his hand smooth like alabaster, save for a small callus where he holds his pen beneath my t-shirt. I shiver, pulling his hand upward to my breast. I remove his glasses, kiss his forehead, slap my lips along the length of his nose, and then we're kissing, our breath warm with tobacco, coffee, hot pepper from dinner. After 11 years, David knows my body well. We make love. I think of Bennett. With David, I allow myself to come extravagantly. I spend our days apart imagining what kind of lover David must be like with his other women. Is he as insatiable with them as he is with me? I imagine shiny girls, their bodies shaved elaborately, breasts round, high, perky, calf muscles taut. They have their parts to play in the cliche. I imagine them sitting coyly in his cluttered office, calling him doctor, perched on the edge of his desk. I imagine them playing the part of the ingenuine, all-plaid skirts, white shirts, thighs spread wide, revealing pristine white panties, moist all the way to the edges. It turns me on to think of him in those tarts tangled in rough and personal hotel sheets, making a mess of themselves and a mess of our marriage. I think of these girls when he's fucking me and telling me that I'm a hot lay and his hair is damp, clinging to the edges of his face. And in his eyes, I can see that he does love me. I think of them when he's telling me how special I am to him. I start to wonder if perhaps for him, the word has a different definition. In the morning, we are in bed, David's heavy arms draped across my body. He is very possessive when he sleeps. Likes to keep me close, he tells me. It is cold, and from our bedroom window, I can see that it is still snowing. Before winter's end, more than 350 inches will fall. I extract myself from his embrace and go to the kitchen to start coffee. When I return, he is sitting up, channel surfing, looking more like a young man than someone in his late 30s. His chest bare is covered in goosebumps. Our relationship is like this. I need these moments to remember why I love him even when I hate him. David grins at me, takes the coffee. He nods toward the window. We should go for a walk, he says. I shrug. I'm not the one for outdoors, but I can make these small sacrifices. Outside, the trees are bare and skeletal. He holds my hand and I follow in the large footsteps he makes with his boots. I want to show you something, he says. We head in the thicker of the trees behind our home and after 15 minutes come up on a small creek, the water still inexplicably running over frozen stones. He wipes a few snowflakes from my scarf, tightens my jacket around me. Don't you love this place? I lean against a thick tree and bite my lower lip. David pulls his camera from his coat pocket. Don't move, he says. I glare into the camera. He knows I hate having my picture taken, and yet he persists. This is what our relationship is like, the not really knowing one another. He makes a silly face, and I finally crack a smile. David furiously presses the shutter release to capture the moment. His earnestness makes me smile wider, and soon I am playing it up for the camera. He pauses, looks at me carefully. Then he closes the distance between us, and he is pressing me against the tree, studying my face carefully. I clasp my hand around his neck, trying to keep a small separation between us. I look away. We ignore the camera as it drops into a soft pile of snow. The branches around me are beautiful, encased in snow and ice. Later, I am in our bathroom drying my hair. David stands behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. We watch each other in the mirror. I have to go out of town tomorrow, he says. It's a last-minute thing. I'm taking the place of a guy in my department at a very important conference. Can't be avoided. I roll my eyes at David in the mirror and throw the hairdryer onto the bathroom counter. It clatters loudly and I bite my lower lip. I don't want David to think he gets under my skin. Very important. David kisses my shoulder. You know how it is. I smile tightly. The day after David leaves, I will pay Bennett a visit. I will bring him a new record I found at the Salvation Army. I will miss my husband. The winters here are long, but they are even longer when you spend them alone. There's Bennett, but I know where I stand with him. Such clarity is uncomfortable. After a big snowfall, the white flakes turn to gray sludge, then dark with sand and salt. A fresh layer of ice covers the streets and sidewalks. I long to wear shoes instead of the clunky boots necessary to navigate the outdoors. David is gone for 8 days on his very important business. I fill the days with my work, which takes a darker turn. It is hard to write about happy things when you can never escape the kind of cold that sinks into your bones and stays there. I am in Siberia, I decide. I am comforted by thoughts of exile, cold, soulless meditation, and inspiration born of emotional deprivation. It is all very dramatic. My evenings are filled with dinner with friends, bad television, movies, and planning dream vacations and sunnier climes. David dutifully calls me 3 times a day, as regular as 3 square meals. Our conversations are brief during the day, longer at night. He loves to hear me come, he tells me. I love to give him a show. I tell him all the dirty things I'm doing to myself in excruciating details. He makes me beg over the phone, and I can hear his satisfaction when I do. He revels in the knowledge that no matter the distance, he has a hold over me. The specificity of these 2 conversations and the way I am willing to debase myself are 2 of the reasons he enjoys being married to a writer. He often tells me I have a knack for details. I wonder if he's alone during these calls or if his hand is running through a lover's hair as he listens to his wife playing the part of his whore. A part of me hopes he isn't, because sometimes I am not. When David returns, he is full of stories about drunken engineers and swanky bars in downtown Philadelphia and the inferior intellects of the people in his field. He beats his chest. I am a goddamn god among men, he says, winking. But more than anything, I missed you. Of course you did, I reply. For the next several weeks, I will tease him mercilessly, can't say that word, and remind him that he is a god among men. He will find this endearing until he doesn't. When I unpack David's suitcase, I create neat piles of clothes that can be put away, laundered, or sent to the dry cleaner. I organize his toiletries, making sure he has enough toothpaste, lotion, shaving cream for the next occasion when he must conduct very important business. The routine relaxes me, reminds me of my part-time role as wife. I search the pockets for matchbook coins, receipts, pens, design ideas on cocktail napkins. Once I found a joint, and before bed we smoked it in the shed in the backyard, giggling like teenagers until we singed our fingers on the roach. This time I find a Polaroid image of David posing with a young brunette attractive in her own way. She is smiling, he is not. She is hugging him from the side, looking at him the way I imagine all his young lovers look at him. Adoringly, desperately. They don't know the man that I married, how betrayal comes so easily to him, so they can afford to look at him like that. David looks like he's trying to slide out of the girl's embrace. It's a sad little scene. There's a phone number written across the bottom of the picture in red lipstick. I leave the Polaroid on his side of the bathroom, perched against the toothbrush holder. This isn't the first time I've found an artifact of his infidelity. It won't be the last. I leave the tokens for him to find because he has left them for me to find. We play games because we can and we like it. Most days these games keep us together somehow. Later tonight he will tell me it's time for bed. We'll slide naked between our sheets. He'll lie on top of me, and I will relax, enjoy how my chest constricts beneath the weight of his body like I'm suffocating. I'll drown in the scent of cologne and his hair products and body wash. We'll make love like we haven't shared our bodies with anyone else, like we are still the people we once promised to be. After I finish putting his things in order and I've cooked us dinner and we've made the small talk married people who know each other too well make, we sit in our family room on our couch and in our familiar positions, laptops and secrets and lovers, and the silence of the snow continues to fall. The old radiators creak as they struggle to cough hot air into the room. "Are you cold?" David asks with a shy smile. I nod, and he pulls me close, wrapping his arms around me. His body feels narrow, almost frail against mine, as if his bones have lost some of their density. I return his embrace. I realize I am holding less of a man than he once was. I wonder how much stamina we have left for the games we play. And then I stand in the back door for a smoke, thinking about Bennett, rough and merciless, necessary. I accept that I am perhaps less of a woman. Perfect. So, like I said, I really, really love this book. There's so many stories in here. There's stories about women who are basically magical. There's a story about a woman who she writes of the woman as a knife. So there's this long extended metaphor about a woman being a knife in her marriage. So like I mentioned before, a lot of the stories we'll talk about women in relationships, which I think is really important. It's something that I often write about, especially how women are, I guess, being satisfied or dissatisfied. And I really like how Roxane Gay goes back and forth between women who are satisfied with being unhappy or satisfied with these complexities of their emotions. I think there's so much to say about this book and about how she writes about these women characters. Yeah, so I don't know if y'all have questions or if y'all want to say anything about Difficult Women if you all have read it, but please pick up this copy. Like I said, it was written in 2017. Roxane Gay, she also writes Bad Feminists, and I think that they align really, really well, especially if we're talking again about the complexity of women's lives and also the complexity of feminism and how that might fit into different women's experiences. So thank you all so much. Like I mentioned earlier, thank you to the Emily Taylor Center for Women and Gender Equity. And then, of course, the Free Black Women's Library. So enjoy your Tuesday.